Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium is one of the city's oldest and most enduring assets. And recently, they've been quietly making a bunch of updates to get back an accreditation that some in the animal world think they probably never should have dropped. Today, we're with CEO Jeremy Goodman to talk about why their credentialing changed, how he feels about internet-famous baby animals, what happens during animal escape drills, poaching, conservation, and so much more. Plus, stick around after the interview for a conversation sponsored by Tree Pittsburgh, which just happens to be one of the zoo's favorite partners. It's all about new ways to experience our city's trees. It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Here at the Pittsburgh Zoo, do you have any, baby hippos or enormous baby penguins on your radar? You know, the mudang and the pesto of it all?
You never know when you're going to have that kind of story that captures everybody's hearts and their attention. We'll see. Hopefully we get that next internet sensation here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Do you quietly root for, your fellow zoos, animal centers when, an animal takes off in this way?
I think, the zoo world is a very tight-knit community. It's a smaller community, and certainly all zoos that are accredited and good zoos root for each other. Definitely root for the good guys, and when they have a successful conservation story or unique medical procedure that went well or anything like that, we're really happy for them, because that's great information, great for the species, and that's what it's all about.
Well, so you've had good news lately. Have you gotten any of those fun messages yourself? Because the big news, of course, is that you got your AZA accreditation back. The zoo had it, cut ties in 2015, and now it's here.
Yeah, I think I probably heard from every single zoo CEO in the country, and probably some outside of the country as well, congratulating myself and the entire Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium team for an incredible accomplishment. And, it's an excellent process with an excellent outcome. And we're very, very happy to add the AZA accreditation into all of our other wonderful accreditations with CAA and AHA.
Because you had a bunch, going back way back.
Parks.
This is just kind of the gold standard big one.
It's the gold standard in the fact that it is the most comprehensive.
Yeah, it's very rigorous.
Right. So the Alliance of Marine Mammal Parks, for example, is incredibly rigorous, but they're only limited to marine mammals.
Yeah.
Seals, sea lions, otters, polar bears, things like that. American Humane, great, very thorough certification process, but all they are concerned about is the welfare of animals. Whereas like AZA looks at all of your finances, they look at your marketing materials, the quality of food in your restaurant. In addition to veterinary care and animal care and safety and security in your grounds. So it's by far the most thorough, but we were very well prepared on all ends from all of our other accreditations and certifications, to go in and once again, get accredited by the AZA.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about what that process has been like for you? Because, you just joined the zoo in 2021, several years after we had let that AZA accreditation lapse. And, maybe why the zoo decided it wasn't worth continuing at the time and why it was important to you then to bring it back.
Yeah, I really can't conjecture as far as why it was dropped at the time. I've read the same stories that everybody else has, so I don't have any incredible insight into that. That's one of the main reasons that I was brought in after Dr. Baker retired. And, it's a long process. Even though we were in very good shape, there were some physical modifications that had to happen on grounds.
Like, can you give an example?
I'll give you a perfect example. The AZA and their elephant standards, for example, says that all fence heights must be a minimum of 8 feet. I think ours in a couple small areas were 7.
Okay.
So we had to weld on an additional bar on top. Once again, elephants weren't going anywhere. It was incredibly safe for visitors and for the elephants. But, it was just a modification that takes time and money to do. And, there were several things like that where the animals were in good situations, but physical modifications needed to be made to make sure that we were in full compliance of the standards. And so, I think our timeline was appropriate for what we wanted to do, because we wanted to make sure that there was no doubt and that every I was dotted and T was crossed.
Yeah.
And
Timeline being like 3-ish years now from the time you started to the
exactly.
time you get the seal of approval.
Right. And, like I said, there's just a lot being done during that 3 years. We brought in a lot more staff. We increased our budget on a number of things. We've upped our conservation game and our education program. So our budget, once again, when I started, we're still coming out of COVID, and we had really tightened the belts significantly, and it was about 18 million. And for this upcoming year, our budget will probably be pretty close to 30 million.
Whoa!
So. Prior to COVID, the budget, I believe, was in the low 20s. So, but we obviously had to recover from COVID just like everybody else did. And that really hit us hard, because not that it didn't hit everybody hard, but unlike museums that just kind of shuttered up, or the theater or whatnot, I mean, we couldn't lay our animals off. And obviously requires all of our staff to take care of them, take care of all the life support systems. So during COVID, we actually had almost all of our expenses and no revenue coming in. So very, very different, as far as how it hit us really, really hard. But the people of this region have just been phenomenal. They love the zoo, and they really have come back stronger than ever, and continue to support us. And like I said, we were able to bounce back nicely and continue to grow and improve.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you were talking about the things that needed to change, some of the physical modifications. What about, behavior? Like, I remember there being something about contact, specifically with elephants, like contact with animals, and how that maybe needed to shift from back then to now.
So that's actually kind of a little bit of a misconception. Just
yeah,
because,
tell me about it.
Yes, that was one of the reasons that was listed for dropping the AZA accreditation.
That's what the zoo said at the time, or that's what the AZA told us was a problem?
No, that's what the zoo said at the time.
Yeah.
The AZA was getting more regulatory and was telling people how to manage their animals, and which was a significant change at the time. And that was one of the reasons that was given as far as leaving the AZA at the time. However, I was very surprised when I came here that our elephant program was probably about 98% in compliance, with only a few small things and modifications that we had to do to the physical facility. That for the last several years, all of our keepers have actually been working in what's called protected contact, where they're not going in with and sharing the same space as our elephants. So there was pretty much almost nothing to change as far as that was concerned. And really the only changes that we had were modifying a couple of gates, like I mentioned before, raising one fence up another foot. So really there was minimal changes that had to be made to our elephant program, quite honestly. And
do you have any sense of why maybe the wrong message got out then?
Yeah, I think at the time, we were certainly going in with our elephants, which once again has historically, it's a proven way of managing elephants. It's not wrong or right. It is felt that protected contact is the safer option, but there have been many excellent elephant programs that work their elephants free contact without a problem.
But Pittsburgh, of course, had that really unfortunate accident back in 2002.
That is very true.
I think we have a little bit more of a sensitivity to it because an elephant handler died while
absolutely
in a space with an elephant.
It was a horrible incident. We have a very dangerous profession. We work with a lot of animals that can hurt you. These are wild animals, even though our keepers have a very unique bond with our animals. They are still wild animals, and it's something that no matter what your protocols are, you always have to be on your game and making sure that you're double checking everything and following every safety protocol to the letter, because it is something that's incredibly important for both our staff, and obviously, we want to make sure that we have a safe place for our visitors, and everybody comes here. And that is one of the things that all of our accreditation, especially our AZA accreditation, reviews our safety protocols. Historically, we have been doing 7 live action safety drills a year. This year,
what's a safety drill? Is it like, do you pretend like an animal escaped
so
and
yes,
go from
we
there?
have animal escape drills. We have severe weather drills. We have active shooter drills. We have venomous snake bite drills. We have dive drills for
Do you
our
let
divers.
people know these are coming in advance, or do you just you press a button and go, and then everybody
we
has to
announce
act
that
as
it's a
if it's
drill.
real?
We announce that it's
Okay.
a drill, so that we don't have EMS zipping over here. We take it very, very seriously, and that's the thing about practicing and drilling, is that if, God forbid, there is ever a true emergency, perfect example is when we had the tornado hit the zoo. We do live action weather drills for severe weather and sheltering people in place, and how fast can we get them into a secure area. And we've been doing that regularly for years and years. And when a tornado was coming and we had 2 minutes, not even, to get everybody in, everybody knew exactly what to do. So, safety is a huge priority for us. Like I said, for both our staff and our visitors, and it's something that we take incredibly seriously.
So we're talking a lot about elephants here at the Pittsburgh Zoo, but I think people sometimes forget that you also have a pretty large presence over in Somerset County. Can you talk about why elephants became such a big part of the Pittsburgh Zoo and its identity, and what you're doing over there now?
Yeah, our zoo actually has one of the largest collection of elephants in North America.
How many?
And right now we have 9 elephants on grounds, and we also have some that are out on loan at other facilities for breeding purposes. So it's something that we have been very, very dedicated, and that goes back all the way to Dr. Baker and her passions, to educating people about elephants, to making sure that the elephants under human care in North America has a steady and thriving population. Elephants are disappearing in the wild. Poaching is at all-time highs. Over 100 elephants a day are slaughtered for their ivory, and that's been going on like that for years now. So, our elephants are ambassadors. They teach people about what's going on in the wild. They help inspire generations to care. And the elephant breeding program is something that we are hoping to be able to even ramp up and expand, because the population in North America is really starting to age. And if we don't get more babies on the ground, then future generations might not ever be able to see an elephant anymore, unless they go to Africa. And even in Africa, or Asia, it might be difficult with as fast as they're disappearing. So
How is the breeding program going? Because we had a couple of baby elephants, but it's tough to keep a baby animal, especially in those conditions.
So there are
thriving.
some really good, been some very good news that has come out recently. One of the largest causes of elephant neonatal death is a horrible virus called EHV.
Is that what happened to some of the babies here in
That's
Pittsburgh?
what happened to the most recent baby, and it's almost 100% mortality, and it's just a horrible virus. And it's elephants in the wild have it, elephants under human care have it, and you hope that the babies build up enough immunity before they're exposed to it. And but the great news is that there's just been a vaccine developed for it. We're very, very hopeful that if all goes well with that, it'll be a thing of the past, and that babies will be able to survive and thrive, and the population will really bounce back.
Well, I mean, even for the zoo, we laugh about Mudang and Pesto, but, baby animals do bring in a tremendous number of visitors. I remember when, I think it was the baby before the last baby, like my mother lived in Tennessee at the time, and she's like, we have to go see the baby elephant. We have to go see her.
Believe it or not, we have a significant number of our animals on birth control, that we are committed that if we do not have a good and responsible place to place those babies as they grow up, then we will not breed. We actually participate, and that is one of the great things about rejoining the AZA, is in a number of managed breeding programs where there's a coordinator for each species, and they will make recommendations to possibly send one of our animals to San Diego and bring another one in from the Bronx and pair that up with one that comes in from Washington or whatnot. And it's to really keep the genetics healthy and whatnot. And so it's a very controlled process. And these coordinators know how much space is available across the country, and they manage the population numbers to make sure that everybody has the animals that they need to be on exhibit, but also for healthy populations as well. So, for example, animals are overrepresented in a certain genetic line. They might say don't breed, or if last year was a bumper crop as far as lots of babies, then they might say, once again, don't breed. So there's lots of reasons why we wouldn't breed animals here. Once again, it's not about bring people in with babies. That's not why we breed.
It's a fringe benefit. It's not the reason why.
Exactly. We breed, for conservation purposes, for sustainability purposes, and to make sure that we have healthy populations. So there is a benefit of, certainly when people love to see the babies, but we don't ever breed just to bring people in through the gates.
Yeah. I mean, how do you strike that balance, between giving the animals a good environment, but also allowing visitors to appreciate them? Like, what role do you think Pittsburgh should be playing in that right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, truth of the matter is, I think most zoos, their biggest benefit, we do a lot of conservation work out in the field and across multiple countries and whatnot. But I think our biggest impact, quite honestly, is connecting people to nature and wildlife and giving them that sense of appreciation and teaching them the plight of these animals. Because unlike other conservation organizations, and there's a lot of really good ones out there, whether it's an Audubon or World Wildlife Federation, none of those places have 1 million people coming through their gates every year. And we have a captive audience that we really have the obligation to educate, and they can have fun doing it, but our animal welfare always comes first. Oftentimes we'll hear sometimes complaints as far as, why isn't this animal out? I just came to see this one. If it's say it's a super hot day, we give our animals access to their air-conditioned barns. They have the choice to be out on exhibit or inside, in the peace and quiet. So a lot of what we do and a lot of what welfare is really about is providing the animals choice. And sometimes it's not popular with our visitors, because they choose to be inside on a hot day and aren't necessarily visible. But
do you get a lot of feedback like that?
We get some, and I think when we
like
explain
on
it to
social
people,
media, do they email you? How do they yell at you specifically?
They don't yell at us. Most of our visitors are incredibly polite. We'll hear it from people on grounds. We'll occasionally get an email or a letter, but once we explain it to people and they really get it and understand that why we're doing this and why they couldn't see that particular animal, maybe it was in the middle of a veterinary procedure and it was just getting routine x-rays or vaccines and was off exhibit for that. So there's always a good reason. And like I said, getting back to that transparency piece, when you explain to people the why, they're very understanding.
Well, I imagine you probably have many, many fans. I think the Pittsburgh Zoo has been quite popular, at least since I've lived here. But, maybe what's your response to folks that don't naturally see things that way, that, no matter how well you talk about animal welfare or how you treat them here, that they think containment in any form is not to be supported. What's your response to them?
Yeah, I think it's a very complicated issue, and I think a lot of those people kind of lump all zoos into the same bucket, and there are bad zoos out there, and those should be shut down. We are not one of them, as is proven by all of our accreditations and certifications. We take excellent care of our animals. The concept of animals frolicking in the wild is a little bit of a misconception. As I mentioned, elephants, there's over 100 slaughtered a day. Animals in the wild are suffering from drought and hunger and poaching and predation and all sorts of things that our animals here aren't exposed to. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is that an animal in the wild is spending a lot of its time searching for food, searching for a mate, searching for shelter, searching for water. And we provide all of that for the animals, which they very much appreciate, but then what are they doing with the rest of their time? And that's where our enrichment and training programs are really, really important to keep them mentally stimulated as well. And the things that we do really try to simulate and encourage natural behaviors that you would see in the wild. So, it's something that you can certainly debate the issue, but our animals definitely are ambassadors. They educate people. And so, I would say that, I think it's just very important to stick to the facts, to see how well our animals are taken care of, to be independently checked by associations like the AZA and American Humane and ZAA and the Alliance Marine Mammal Parks. So it's not just us saying it, it's independent organizations coming out and confirming that that's the case.
Dr. Goodman, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you liked learning about the zoo today, there are a bunch of neat ways to plug in right now. Events and visits for sure, but also their new master plan. The first phase just came out and includes a brand new entrance, some special love for the giraffes and the orangutans, plus a preschool. I have so many new questions, and you can let Dr. Goodman and others know how you feel about this and everything else that they've been up to. The zoo's All Ears survey is also now live. You can find all this and more in our show notes and in today's Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. And please don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Tree Pittsburgh. Our executive producer, Mallory Falk, is chatting with Joe Stavish, Tree Pittsburgh's Director of Education, about a new tool to help you enjoy trees all over the city.
Hey, I'm Mallory Falk, executive producer for CityCast Pittsburgh, here with Joe Stavish. He's the Director of Education for Tree Pittsburgh. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and when I was thinking about moving back here, one of the selling points was just how green the city is. There are so many trees. And I recently learned we actually have 8 certified arboreta. Can you explain to me what that means exactly?
Absolutely. So most people just see the green spaces in city parks and think they're all the same. But an arboretum, simply put, is a designated space for trees, basically for people to learn and enjoy. An arboretum itself can be certified. So you have to have a certain amount of trees. You have to have labels on those trees, dedicate some funding for care of those trees, and celebrate those trees each year.
Like I said, I had no idea this was a thing until recently, so I could not have told you where to find an arboretum in Pittsburgh. And I know Tree Pittsburgh is actually trying to change that now. Tell me about your new website.
Yeah, so what we're putting together is something called the Arboretum Hub. And this is a way to bring people to one location, learn about the arboretum that we have in the city, and also look at videos, maps, fun facts about these, and then be able to go out and explore. These arboretums have existed for a while, but I don't think a lot of the city residents know what they are, where they are, or that they can go look for them and explore and see some really great trees.
So for anyone who's curious, where are the certified arboreta in Pittsburgh?
So they're a little bit spread out, but our webpage will show you the locations. 2 of the locations are some of our older cemeteries, Allegheny Cemetery and Homewood Cemetery. 2 of our universities, Chatham University, and Duquesne University, and then some of our city parks. So Mellon Park, Riverview Park, Westinghouse Park, and then the final one is a private property but open to the public, is the Frick Pittsburgh, or the Frick Museum.
I would have just expected these to be in city parks. So it's cool that places like cemeteries and universities can have that certification too.
Yeah, typically when I see a cemetery up where I live, they don't really have trees. It's mostly grass space. But Pittsburgh really has taken care to preserve mature trees in the cemeteries and also to plant new ones. And so we work with a lot of our properties to keep the trees happy and plant new ones, and so that more people can enjoy them in the future.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to take a tour of Allegheny Cemetery, for example. What kind of information would I find on your new website?
So one of the things you'll find is a video that we create, sort of a video tour of the Arboretum if you don't get to go there on your own. There's also going to be a map to show you where tree highlights are throughout the cemetery. Also, there's designated trees with labels on once you get there so that you can actually, from a distance, see a post with a sign and know that that's a tree you should go explore. We also put on lessons and activities for students, homeschool teachers, educators, so that when they're at the Arboretum, they can interact with a little more than just simply identifying a tree.
Got it. Yeah. Can you tell me about some of the activities that are planned in each Arboretum? What can people expect?
So every Arboretum will receive a tour. It's like in-person tour, and it's free to the public to come out and walk with me, and I'll highlight some of the great trees that are there, and also familiarize people with the location of the Arboretum and sort of the layout. Also, some of the interactive activities that you can download would be like measuring and mapping trees, which are a great way to learn how to identify them, estimate their age, bring in some practical math skills, and hopefully have some fun. There'll be seasonal highlights of what you can expect to see throughout our seasons, because our trees look very unique in different times of the year. They're just kind of opening up the eyes more than just walking through and seeing trees for what they are, but appreciating all the services they provide and wildlife that interact in our Arboretum.
So if people want to learn more, where should they go?
So they should check out Tree Pittsburgh's website, which is treepittsburgh.org, and there'll be a tab for the Arboretum Hub. And that's going to have all the information on there, and it will highlight each of these Arboretums specifically so you can learn more about each one. Watch a video tour if you're never able to come down to the city, or take your friends there and show them some of the cool things that you can find in the city. All this is provided through a generous grant from the Garden Club of Allegheny County, and you'll find maps, videos, and more.
Joe Stavish, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Again, you can check out treepittsburgh.org to learn more. We will have that link for you in our show notes so that you're just a click away. Thanks for listening.
And that's actually not all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh, because we're dropping a bonus episode about the zoo today too. We asked Dr. Goodman so many questions, like the best bang for your buck in the gift shop, the zoo's best event, and when to come if you want the best chance to see the animals awake and, doing their thing. Look for that in your feeds now. And of course, come back tomorrow morning for more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.
We are one of, I believe, 3 zoos in North America, and I think one of 5 in the world to exhibit Philippine crocodiles. Probably not one of our sexier species, like our tigers or our sharks or elephants or giraffes, things like that.
I don't know. The last time I was here, people were very into those crocodiles.